Welcome everyone. Today we have another new session from World Talent Economy Forums and different people, different professors from different countries, they are joining today's sessions because today is a special day, Global Peace Day. So we are starting our sessions with Professor Ainul Jaria and Professor Haniki, and they will discuss about them and discuss about their idea, research, and about Malaysia and how we can contribute for global peace, especially in Asia Pacific. And this area they will discuss on that particular points. So, Professor Ainul, can we start with you and can you please discuss about, because I think already World Talent Economy Forum, IBM TV, they know about you. Just I want to know about your research on global peace.
Assalamualaikum. Thank you, Sharif, for inviting me. And welcome, Prof. Haniki, to the show as well. We are colleagues from the same university, yeah?
Yes.
And we work on different areas, but at the same time, we are focusing on promoting well-being. Well-being is part of peace, isn't it, in the community? As for me, I am very much a focus, being a legally trained person, my focus is more on resolving conflicts. In fact, the university has adopted a new, not a project, but a new tagline saying that peace for all. And under this peace for all program, the vice chancellor or director has agreed for my team to establish a group, more like a research cluster under the Greater Gombak Center in IUM. We got this recognition as Greater Gombak Center, some awards from United Nations and all the green and sustainable development stuff. So our cluster will be looking at conflict resolution and peace building. Basically, it's more academic perspective. We are looking at how, what can academics do besides writing. At the same time, we're also trying to get our students to appreciate and understand from day one they come to the university. Yeah? So the university is also introducing a new course called UniCourse, Sustainable Development Aspects, where students will be exposed to various aspects, various goals of sustainable development, but beyond the classroom. They have some components of theory, but they will be asked to go into the community to share their knowledge, more like projects on ground. I think before I continue further, I would like to invite Prof. Haniki to speak.
Yes.
From his
Yes.
perspective.
Yes. Professor Haniki, can you please introduce yourself? Because this is, I think, your first session with World Talent Economy Forum. And side by side, if you want to share something about your idea, about your research on global peace or any area you want to share with us. And people love to know about Malaysia. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brother Sharif, for the invitation to be in this World Global Forum with my colleague and esteemed speaker, Prof. Ainul from Gombak. I am in the Kuliah or the School of Pharmacy in Kuantan, where the health campus of IIUM is located. I am a clinical pharmacist by training. I got my doctor in pharmacy from the US, and my interest is in public health, particularly in tobacco use. And we know that is one of the agenda under the SDGs, and it's also a huge issue of health and disparity and equality that we need to address, because we know that majority of people afflicted by tobacco are in the less developed or developing countries. So due to that, there's a huge economic impact, not only in terms of health, but also loss of lives, and it also causes disabilities. So I look at it from the perspective of health, and definitely my research interest has been on smoking cessation, because we deal with the tobacco use disorder, and we have to deal with both the physical part of the addiction and also the psychological part of the habitual or the behavior part. And we on constant basis have to resolve this conflict and to create a peaceful environment between smokers and non-smokers, because
Mhm.
smokers feel that they are being marginalized, they are being stigmatized, and becoming a third-class citizen nowadays, because more and more countries have gone above and beyond the minimum requirement to create
Mhm.
smoke-free environment. So my passion has been for the past 20 years or so to help smokers to quit and build a smoke-free environment, which creates a healthier environment for all, and hopefully through improvement of health, it will also create peace.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. We have our new guest from India, Durga Das, and she is actually, Madam Durga Das, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, basically, she is actually solving a very interesting things in India. I think with the solar energies and solar things, they are actually solving the water-related problems. And even what I know that she is also partnering with Princess Dr. Nasreen, and they are
Mm.
working together. So I think she is also originate from Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So, Madam Durga Das, can you share your views about you and about the Peace Day and what you want to share about your company today. Madam Durgadash, can you hear me?
I
Okay.
think something wrong with the internet.
Yes, I think she has a problem, so she definitely gonna join. So,
Connection.
Madam Ainul Jaria, can you start? I think those who join, we will add them. No problem. Yes,
Oh, I think some connection problem. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Then,
yes.
so coming back to our IIUM, it is a regional center for excellence recognized
Mhm,
by the United Nations University. Uh,
mhm,
as you see, when we talk about peace, Islam means peace, isn't it? Salam. Yeah.
mhm,
So the International Islamic University Malaysia, what more we want to promote than peace, yeah. So we have a big role here to play to in promoting peace everywhere, yeah, in the community, within our environment. Yeah? So peace doesn't mean peace only with human, but peace also looks at peace, living peacefully with the environment. Uh, I mean, why is Prof. Haniki very concerned about tobacco-free environment? Because that's also to create a clean environment for
mhm,
mankind as well as for other living beings. Yeah? So our
mhm,
Gombak Regional Center for Excellence, expertise, is
mhm,
focusing on all the 16 SDG. And in fact, I think we are proposing to introduce one more SDG, that is Islamic component. Yeah. But if you look at the entire SDG uh, SDGs, it is very much in line with the other religion as well, like universal value. Yeah? For me, I believe that all religions, Abrahamic or the revealed and unrevealed, all looks at goodness. Yeah, how to make people live in harmony and peace. Um, I mean, we can avoid conflict if we want to do it sincerely, isn't it?
mhm,
It's not matter of lip service or writing papers and preparing slogan, but it's more in terms of mindset. We have to move away from the existing mindset. I mean, I myself, I'm training myself not to get into conflicts, yeah, because it starts within us. So conflict is something that we should try to manage. Of course, it's not easy to avoid conflict. I mean, there's bound to be some conflict somewhere, especially when there is dissatisfaction. Yeah, we'll come to that in a while. But I believe that conflict uh, should not be avoided but should be resolved. Yeah? So I think let Prof. Haniki
yes,
speak.
yes, yes. Professor Hanik, because you are expert in a very specific field. Because in COVID-19, right now, like example, many people actually around the world they are smokers, and COVID also affect those people, those who are smokers, and this is actually very problematic things. How do you want to share your research things with our audience in a simplest way, and how actually we can overcome from these bad habits, and what's your idea and thought? I just want to take just one audience response. He said, I think it would be great discussion today. Thanks all. Mohammad Shoel Rana. So Professor Haniki, can you please share your views? Yeah. Please unmute yourself. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the comment. We know for many years now that smoking is harmful to almost all organs or every part of the body, particularly the pulmonary, the cardiovascular, and also because it damages the cells and it causes mutation, so it leads to all sort of cancers. So the majority of deaths are related to cardiovascular, pulmonary, and also cardio and vascular diseases. So with COVID, we know that it is a respiratory illness, and we know the impairment of the pulmonary system or the lungs in particular. The first, how do I say, the first line of defense is actually impaired due to some mechanisms related to tobacco smoking. One of the mechanisms that have been put forth by scientists is that the uh, additional receptors or places where the virus can actually latch on, so that increases susceptibility or risk to the getting the infection. And once the COVID, the coronavirus can get into the system, it will then wreak havoc, and then it will cause more severe illness as compared to non-smokers, and which requires, for example, ventilation, admission to the ICU or intensive care unit, and also lead to worse outcome, including death. However, worldwide, there had been mixed reports on this. Some countries actually found there are less worse outcomes among smokers, or they would attribute that to the effect, the protective effect of nicotine. However, all this kind of how do I say, reports uh, are actually having doubts in terms of the scientific rigor when they present something that is pro smoking or pro tobacco. There's always issues with their kind of scientific methodology. So what we in the health community, we know the fact that smoking impairs the lung immune function, and that increases the risk of infection, viral, bacterial, and what you can name it. So it makes perfect sense that smokers are, and also users of other tobacco products, including the electronic cigarettes, are at higher risk of getting COVID-19. And if they get COVID-19, their outcome is worse, and they would also have increase in mortality rate. So what we need to do is to create this awareness, particularly in the time of the pandemic, that this is the perfect chance or the perfect opportunity for smokers to take and then make the niyat or the intention to quit. So beginning with the niyat to quit, and then they can actually seek professional help, because evidence shows that if you get professional help from specialists or from trained professionals, health professionals, your success rate is higher. Okay, so because we know we need to address, as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, that tobacco use disorder has two components: the physical addiction, which is mainly attributed to nicotine that is in tobacco, and also the habitual part, which is also kind of psychological. So we have to address both using methods that have been shown to be evidence based. For example, we need to use medications which are approved by the Ministry of Health, for example, or the US FDA, which are considered first line, or behavioral intervention that are also been proven to be useful, and not doing or giving advice or interventions that would lead to more harm and false hope, because we know also that tobacco use disorder is a chronic relapsing addictive disease. So even if they quit today, they may smoke again later on in the future. Na'udzubillah. But even if they do, we know it is part of the disorder or the disease. So on our part, we want to help smokers because we know they are just like patients. They are just like any other patients that you see coming or seeking help with other ailments or illness. For example, if you see someone going to the hospital or the clinic or the pharmacy, and then you happen to check the blood pressure and it's elevated, so you want to help them, you want to treat them, or people with diabetes. Prof. Ainul joked with me because she knows I love desserts and I have sweet tooth. So with some, Alhamdulillah, I'm not diabetic. But if you see someone who's diabetic with elevated blood sugar, you want to treat them. You're not going to wait until someone makes the decision or say, okay, I'm going to reduce or cut down my sugar intake. Then only you're going to start the treatment. The fallacy or the myth that some health professionals seem to adapt is that they are saying that, well, if smokers can buy their cigarettes, they can buy their own medications, or if it's just habit, so you can just control your habit and overcome it. But it's not as simple as that. We have more than 1.3 billion tobacco users globally, and more than 8 million of them die from tobacco. And we know tobacco kills up to half of its users. So it's a substantial loss in terms of human lives. And what's dramatic, as I mentioned earlier on, out of the 8 million people or smokers globally, 7 million of the deaths are the result of direct tobacco use, while another 1.2 million are the result of non-smokers being exposed to secondhand smoke. So this is another issue that we need to also address in order to ensure health disparity, to address it properly so that non-smokers are not exposed to the harmful effect of tobacco smoke. So we need to have that in order to create a safe environment for all, a peaceful environment, and which is in tandem with of course, the Islamic teaching and the global spirit of religion worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Ainul, my question to you, because you are a policymaker and you are working with the conflict resolutions and this kind of things. From World Talent Economy Forum, we want to know more about this ASEAN story, how they're making their peaceful relationship, or ASEAN become how it become more productive even in COVID period. Actually, how ASEAN is actually working right now. Maybe it can be example for other countries, and it can be example for SARC, example for other countries. How do you want to explain these things?
You mean ASEAN or Asian?
But like from Asian region, like how do we think about that from
Because
this
we have,
Asia
if you,
Pacific? Yes,
yeah,
Asia
because it's
Pacific.
Asia Pacific, and then we have Asian, and then we have ASEAN.
Yes, yes, yes.
Malaysia is part of ASEAN.
Mhm.
ASEAN, I mean, the countries in the Southeast Asia region, we call ourselves
Exactly.
ASEAN. Yeah, Asian is different, ASEAN is different.
Mhm.
So it is not an easy formula that has been developed, or that could be just like we can't find a cure for, I mean, the antidote or the antibiotic for curing COVID as yet.
Mhm.
Similarly, it is not an easy task, yeah, especially when like I was telling my friends, I've been warning everyone, please be prepared for pay cut next year, because you see,
Mhm.
the COVID incident started this year. We already, I mean, most of the countries are having sluggish economics since few years ago. So with COVID 19, or some people choose to call it Corona, but in Malaysia we always use the term COVID-19. Yeah? So
Mhm.
with the coming of this pandemic, what happened? People are caught off guard. Yeah. You see, taxes cannot be collected because businesses are not doing good. Closing down business is not an easy step, but that's what the government needed to do to prevent the spread of the disease. And we managed it quite well, but still, we are still struggling. We cannot eradicate, it looks like we cannot eradicate this pandemic. We have to manage it effectively. So I really applaud our health system, our healthcare system, led by Tan Sri Nur Hisham Abdullah, our Director General for Healthcare. I mean, he and his team, it's not him alone, but he and his team. I think Prof. Haniki is partly involved in this. Yeah, I have my daughters involved as well. All the healthcare system, financial, there are many parties who are playing a role in this process. Not only the healthcare, but the police, the army, the national security agency, the ministers. Yeah, they work around the clock to come up with decisions to shut down everything. We never had this shutdown. I've never come across this shutdown. I'm more than half a century old. So I've never had this experience because I was born after World War II. I mean, more in a peace, even after Malaysia achieved its independence. Yeah, I'm a post-independence child. Things were progressing and progressing, and we only see progress most of the time. Yeah, and we see peace and harmony, especially within our region. There's not much conflict, and although we have some small minor conflicts, like for example we have conflict between Philippines and Malaysia, or Indonesia and Malaysia on their claim to the state of Sabah. Yeah, we'll come to that in a while. But we still carry on our diplomatic relations in a very peaceful, harmonious manner. There is no direct conflict in terms of like waging war against each other. No. So this pandemic that we have now, it is something it is like unknown. We always told that it is an unknown what do you say? It's an unknown enemy. Yeah, very difficult to find. Suddenly we have a new cluster coming. Suddenly we have a new case. Yeah, like after a long a few months, nearly more than a month of the cases being reduced to just 1 or 2 digits. Suddenly it went to 3 digit. Yeah, so shocking as well, and we got panic. We don't want another shutdown. So if it's the lockdown or shutdown is very, very scary. For people like us who are employed by the government, we have a comfort zone. Yeah, we're in the comfort zone where we have our salaries. Yeah, there was a small cut from my salary, but was very, very small, too small to even notice a few hundred ringgit. Yeah, to contribute to the COVID fund. But this year, with the oil price, we have our national oil company Petronas did not reach the profit target. Petronas is one of the biggest contributor to our country's fund. Yeah. Also, the government cannot impose tax on businesses because businesses are suffering, and they also had to give them some stimulus packages where they have to fund. I mean, the government has to come up with fund to help the businesses. So you see, with all these economic factors taking place and loss of jobs, also, and we have, industries are closed down. So 3 months is not easy. So all this will only culminate in the big issue coming next year. Now we are still okay, but next year we must be prepared globally. Yeah, not only in Malaysia. I think globally we must be prepared. So this is where the government is also challenged with the task of increasing. They have to do something. They have to do something because industries are closed for a while, and then import export businesses are not progressing. Oil, and then our main economic sector is oil and gas, as well as oil palm. Yeah, so we cannot we are doing manufacturing, but at the same time it is a big chain that everyone's in it. We cannot say US is doing better or Indonesia. No, everyone is suffering. So in this situation, what we can do, conflict may arise. Conflict in terms of sharing resources, conflict in terms of contracts. When we have contracts, contracts can be frustrated. Contract cannot be fulfilled. So who is going to bear the damages? Both parties are suffering. Parties from all over the world are suffering. So how do we come? So these are the conflicts that we must be prepared to see next year. Beside the issues relating to Uyghur, issues in the Rohingyas, the Syria, Palestine is a never-ending issue. Then we also have Yemen crisis. We have many crises around us, and we call ourselves developed, civilized global community. We're talking about IR 4.0. We're talking about a borderless global environment. We're talking about so much good things, but behind us there are a lot of suffering. You know, people don't have food, people don't have access to education. There's so much suffering around us. Sharif, are you with me? I mean, we talk
Yes,
about the
yes, yes,
sufferings, huh? Yeah, so
yes.
much suffering. We have World Peace Day. We have so much things being said and done, but when you look at the Millennium Development Goals, yeah, there was not much progress. There was not
Mhm,
much progress. You have homeless. I've seen homeless people when I
mhm,
was in the UK. I've seen homeless people. I'm sure
mhm,
Prof. Haniki would have met homeless people in the US as well. That they're
mhm,
homeless not only in our countries but also homeless everywhere else. I mean, I went to some parts of Europe where we can see homeless people coming from the Eastern Europe, you know, sitting in the cold with small babies, you know, begging for food, begging. It's so heart wrenching. But how are we going to solve this problem? Who is committed to solve this problem?
mhm, mhm.
Who is committed? You tell me. I don't see any commitment around us.
No, no. Actually, we need global
Ah,
combination.
ah,
Even
yes.
we need much people,
Hmm,
government,
hmm,
corporations.
hmm,
Everybody need
hmm.
contribution, right? NGOs and
Everyone is
different
doing
things.
it.
Everyone need
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
contribute. Otherwise, it's a challenging situation. Yeah,
When we talk about
definitely.
Palestine, we talk about Yemen, we talk about Syria. Who is
Mhm,
going to stop it? It is a
mhm,
never-ending issue. And
mhm,
you know, civil war as well as I mean, the Palestine is not a civil war, but Yemen and Syria is more like a civil war. Muslims attacking Muslims, you know, the Shia Sunni divide. If you go to Palestine, it's the Jew and the Muslims. But when you look at the values of all this Abrahamic religion, it talks about peace, respecting your neighbor, respecting the environment. You know, when
mhm,
we go for war, it's not respecting the environment anymore. We are damaging all the resources available for the people.
mhm,
So, you see, we there is no inclusivity. We talk about inclusivity. Inclusivity is a very important aspect, element for the successful achievement of the SDGs.
mhm,
We talk about poverty alleviation. We talk about, you know, life. For example, two weeks ago, I remember I told you we have no water because of pollution. That particular companies who polluted the water, the rivers, are very unscrupulous people. They purposely did it, you know. So to me, this kind of offenders should not only be sent to prison or fined, they should be caned because they are causing harm to the human. You know, water is a very important element in our life. So when they do that, to me, they should be caned because they are deprived. They deprived 6 million people of access to clean water for a few days,
mhm,
not one day, not 1 hour, but like it was like 4 to 5 days, I think, for some places. Like for us, it was like 3 days. And what about in the COVID-19 situation, if this kind of thing happens? So these are the people, the small number of people in the community who are very greedy, who wants to
mhm,
make profit for themselves, who don't want to create proper affluent discharge system according to the law. We have law all over the world. We have law against this, law against that, law to protect whatever, but they are not complying with the law. Again, this comes with lack of enforcement, weak enforcement. Law can be made, you know, as a policy maker, and I mean, all my research shows the Malaysian law is good because we draft most of our laws based on international best practices, taking
mhm,
into account the international principles plus the, you know, the ASEAN, whatever that is around us is there in our law. The policy directions are all done. We make sure that we fulfill all the political ideology, yeah, especially the ruling party, and then we look at the economic aspects. Then we look at the social aspects. Then we look at the technology that's available, then the environmental aspect plus the law. So the law, the pastel aspect is always there. The law to regulate everything else. So when the law is there, law can be effective only if it is properly implemented and enforced. So all over the world, we talk about international treaties, United Nations. To me, sometimes United Nations, I mean, I've been involved with some of these United Nations meetings, not the big ones, but smaller component. UN Habitat talking about the land issues, women's rights, youth rights, yeah? Access to land, access to property, um, everything is there. But if the leaders or the community leaders or the political leaders are not inclined to share. The African term, we call it Ubuntu. In Islam, we call it Ihsan, yeah? and Insan. You remember? I think Insan and Ihsan is also a Bangladesh term. No? It's
Mhm.
an Islamic term, but in Malaysia also we call it Ihsan and Insan. It's a Malay term as well. Because most of the Malay term, it takes from Urdu, it takes from Arabic and Sanskrit. Yeah? So some of the terms are very, very universal in nature. So when we have leaders who come for the sake of leading a nation, yes, but how can a leader, to me, the best role model of leader is Gandhi. But
Mhm.
how many people can be like Gandhi?
Mhm. Mhm.
How many people can be like Gandhi? Not many people can be like him. Sacrifice, his life pleasures to fight, not to fight, but he was actually negotiating peace with the British. He was negotiating. Actually, it's a very subtle way of negotiating. He was fasting. There was a lot of even in Malaysia, we did a lot of negotiation for peace, for independence from our British colonial masters. So there was not much of blood spill, but was quite severe after the Japanese occupation and then the communists. And then, of course, some of the Malay leaders wanted. Actually, when you talk about Malaysian independence, a very interesting aspect I want to bring here. Previously, there was not much issue, but after Japanese occupation, there was some goodness in Japanese occupation, where the Asians, especially the India, Malaysia, Indonesians, we realized that our forefathers realized that we can stand up against the Western colonies, because if Japan can stand up against them, can conquer. That's where the fight for independence started. So there's some goodness in Japanese occupation, although we didn't really agree with the way uh, they occupied and the way they mistreated the people in every part they occupied. But Japanese occupation started the fire, ignited the fire for nationalism. So
Mhm.
this is how independence, the fight for independence started. So it could be by rebellion or by negotiation. Most of the independence discussion was through negotiation. For Malaysia was more, we just celebrated our Independence Day and as well as Malaysia Day. So it was through negotiation, more negotiation. And I believe that when we talk about ASEAN here, ASEAN nation are very, very peaceful in nature. Yeah, of
Mhm.
course,
Mhm.
Asian as well. Then Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific includes the Australia, New Zealand, Japan. So generally, I think everyone is at peace. Just that there are some countries and some ethnic who wants to be rid of other ethnic. They want to be the superior. They're
Mhm.
trying to bring back ethnic cleansing issues. I mean, formula. I think it's very, very wrong. To me, every life matters.
Mhm.
Every life is. I mean, um, it's very tragic, lah, Sharif, to see what's happening around us, the
Yes.
Uyghur Muslims. Yeah. So I will come back later. Let
Yes,
Prof
yes,
speak
yes.
then.
Professor Hanike, I want to ask you a question. There are actually many audience response. Audience has many questions on peace and other things. Professor Hanike, please unmute yourself. I want to take one question from Mr. Shomon. He asked questions. We want peace. Today is a special day. World people need to change how they think for the world to be peaceful. So what do you want to think about the thought process? What do you want to share about that? And especially for peaceful mind or for the peaceful society, how should we think about this thought process and other things?
Very deep, provoking question indeed. I was just attentively listening to Prof. Ainul, and I think she covered some of the issues that we need to build a peaceful society, that we need to have in ourselves the sense of compassion or empathy, or a hybrid of both. And to the extent that we know as Muslims, we should be treating each other peacefully, because that's the religion that we believe in. And also we consider our brothers, particularly, and sisters who are Muslim, as parts of our own body. So we cannot be healthy if one or any part of the body is afflicted with any illness or sickness or disease. So I know that for the fact that we need to instill this in ourselves first, And also, if we are blessed with children, then we teach this to our children, instill these values in our children, and hopefully it will spread across. Of course, just having the knowledge itself, it doesn't necessarily would lead to action, but we also would need to have guidance, and we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the strength and the ability to put our kind intention into actions, because Prof. Aino put it very succinctly just now, that we need to be able to have this put into action in order to realize that we are interconnected. Definitely, we are not in silos. We have to work together, and for the Muslims, even more, we have to consider we are, as I've said, a body, one body, and any parts that is affected, we need to consider to heal it in order to function. Because if we are affected in any ways, then we would not be able to function well, and that can result in imbalance in ourselves, and therefore in our family, communities, and that trickles, having a ripple effect to the countries and the whole global effect per se. So having said that, I know the question is not going to be able to be explained in this short time. Uh, I think the awareness of it, and the brother who posted the comments definitely has the awareness, Alhamdulillah. And we need more people like the brothers. And of course, we have Sister Prof. Aino with us, who's very aware and doing what she can to contribute the sacrifice. Even she considers very little, but to other people is a huge sacrifice. So we do what we can in every bit and way, so that we can help and impact others, because the whole purpose is that we are here to know one another. Yeah, we are put on this earth to know one another, and we also have to be subservient and be as servants to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we know this is just the garden that we would plant our seeds, and we would reap the effect here and also hereafter. So I think the spiritual belief, which is what our IIUM rector is going to put on as the next SDG. Yeah. So having the spirituality is definitely the foundation in achieving that the peace. And if you have the spirituality component, I would believe that you would not go astray. Yeah. Even if you do, you can go back to the right path. And there will people like brothers and sisters here, even Brother Sharif, will remind us that we are not doing what we're supposed to do, and we are able to then perform to our best and be the khairul ummah, and be of benefit not only to ourselves, our families, but also to all mankind, inshallah.
Mhm. Thank you, Professor.
Sure.
I want to take more questions from audience. Mohammad Shohel Rana, he asked questions. Given there are peaceful communities around the world where people live their entire lives without experiencing war, so is violence a cultural issues? Anyway, he is actually more thinking that we have different kind of war in Middle East and other country. So how actually we can think about the this global peace and other things. Second questions I want to take from Hosne Arafet though. She asked, it's a great discussion on the special day, how to find true happiness and peace in our heart and mind, which is very essential for the world peace. So Professor Ainul. Yes.
Okay, as I said earlier, I'm trying to find my inner peace as well. You
Mhm.
see, being legally trained, we are always trained to argue. But how do I try? Now I'm trying to retrain myself to lessen my argument and uh, and be more at peace. Huh? So in Islam, we call this reda, the concept of reda or rida. Yeah? Reda means you have to at times give in. Very simple. When we are growing up, we have siblings quarrel, so parents will say, "Give in to your brother, the younger one," or to a favorite child. The parents sometimes parents Yeah, not all parents can be fair, equal, treat child. There must be some sort of biasness. Yeah, Prof? I'm not so sure if you are biased towards your daughter, but usually sometimes we have this bias. Like I'm very biased towards my son Faiz because he needs some special. But that comes from small, yeah? The biasness. So we tend to grow up. Sometimes it's very important. The environment that we grow up also makes what we are. Again, culture as well. If you look at the Asian culture and prior to the World War II, most of the time the women are supposed to give in to the male members of the family for education. Take so the female always left at the background, yeah, taking care of the family and doing things because it's always the male who are given priority. But after World War and with the realization around us with education, I think women are given more space now, especially if parents got only daughters. They tend to give the focus on the children's education. So education is very, very important. But at the same
Mhm.
time, when we are educated, we cannot be arrogant. Arrogance is another uh, source of conflict. Yeah, ego, arrogance. Yeah. So ego and arrogance is something that it is not easy. It is not easy. It's very difficult. It's easy to tell, but it is something that we have to learn. As I said, I'm uh, nearly, I mean, like half a century old, and I've undergone a process, and it's not easy. It's not easy. But at the same time, I can see some young people, very young people, who know how to balance, who know how to speak, who know how to handle things, who don't react. Yeah. So these are qualities we have to tell our children from young. So these young people are the one who become leaders, who become members of society, who become, so everything starts from home. And at times parents tend to leave things to the schools, education sector. Yes, education, but how much can the school teach them? How much can the teachers spend? Because it's a whole lot of curriculum if we have to cover in certain time. Yeah. So the concept of reda is very, very important. I think it is a universal concept. All religion teaches us. I believe that if everyone fall back, to me, I believe, I mean, as a Muslim, I may say that this my religion is the best, but I choose not to say that because I think everyone believes that their religion is the best. And what I always tell my friends, because I have friends from mixed race and religion, whatever you do your best. If you are a Christian, be a good Christian. If you are a Hindu, be a good Hindu. If you are a Muslim, be a good Muslim. You don't have
Mhm.
to criticize, ridicule others because every belief, even an atheist, they have good values as well, isn't it? So
Mhm.
the concept is basically very, very much our inner peace. Once we have peace, we want to create peace for others.
Mhm.
Why is Prof. Haniki championing this smoke-free environment? Because
Mhm.
even smoking environment can cause conflict to others as well. It
Mhm.
tend to, yes, Sharif. You wanted.
Ma'am, I have a question. Even
Mm,
in this present world, how you discuss, actually, even personally, I believe. I think many
mm,
of our audience also believe that we should respect other religion. But
mm,
in recently, like few years, we find that many Muslims and even many people, they do
mm,
debate each others, and this
mm,
kind of debate actually create a lot of conflict. This is reality. Even let's say Muslim do debate against Christian
mm,
do debate
mm,
against
mm, mm.
Hindu, even it's a very big public issues. And how do you think about that, and what should be the peaceful process
That's
for
that's why I think, I'm sorry to say this, but I hope people will not get offended. I'm not a fan of Dr. Zakir Naik.
okay.
Yeah, because the way he preaches, the way he speaks, when I heard him first time, I was shocked, because very aggressive in nature. But if you look at Noman Ali Khan, look at
Mhm.
Mufti Meng, the way they preach, the way they speak, even I think some of my non-Muslim friends like to hear, like to listen to
Mhm.
them because they promote, I mean, they themselves, and look at them, they look so peaceful. You see, I mean, the face looks so peaceful, not aggressive. So
Mhm.
when we are so aggressive in presenting ideas and views, also can create tension. And there are people who can be obsessed with the religious leaders.
Mhm.
So when religious leaders come to come to the public and debates, they must be very careful because we are
Mhm.
not living in an environment. Even in the Quran, it said that God created. yeah, men in different race, different, sizes and colors, nations, so that we can interact. This is a
Mhm.
test on us human being, uh, to appreciate each other. Why did God create different, African, Caucasian, Asian? There's so many different, types of people, different values, different culture. So we cannot simply accuse or ridicule other people's values and culture. For example, I said I was looking at the Julka system in
Mhm.
Afghanistan, the Pashtun dispute resolution system. I was very upset, yeah, because this system doesn't allow women to come to give evidence. I'm being a woman. I said, hey, where's women's right? How can they do not allow women to come into the forum? Because it's only decided by the elders in the community, the religious leaders, the ulama. But I cannot simply ridicule this. So when I was reading, oh, this is the culture. It is not religion. Because Islam, we have our Prophet's wife, Salawat's wife, Sayyidatina Aisha, who was involved. She was a scholar herself, yeah. So Islam promotes education to all, but
Mhm.
more cultural. So when we look at, like, if you have certain culture in Bangladesh, you have certain culture in Malaysia. In fact, remember last time I spoke about the adat perpati culture, where women are given priority, women are treated as the leaders, but they do the soft talk behind, they influence the decision making. So Asian community, ASEAN especially, the Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Philippines, yeah,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not so sure about Singapore. Singapore is a blend of everybody. So in this Asian ASEAN culture, the woman participates in the economic sector.
Mhm.
Okay, so woman assumes a very important role, even if she doesn't come to the front as leaders, but they have this persuasive power where they can influence their husband, right, Prof? The woman can have some persuasive power, can influence their family members to agree to certain, decision making. So this is the ASEAN, yeah, culture. But different community got different culture. If you go to Saudi, the male are there. I've been to Kuwait where the women don't come out, only the male are there, and then they sit down and discuss. And when I go for meetings, I felt a bit embarrassed because I'm the only female sitting among all the males, talking. But their women come and shake hands. Sometimes they go away. They don't sit there because they are not interested in the discussion we're talking about. So different values, different cultures. So what we need to avoid to do this conflict is to avoid criticizing others. Avoid criticizing. This is what we need to look at. Avoid to understand, learn more, and appreciate other cultures and values instead of jumping and criticizing and comparing between each values and belief, which is, I think, not is not suitable at this developed age. I
Mhm.
think we have Madam
Yes.
Durga there.
Yes. Madam Durga, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, good. Sorry,
We have our
there's
guest
some
from
problem we had again.
Madam Durga Das from India, as well as we have our guest from International Islamic University, Professor Ainul Jaria and Professor Hanike. So today, actually, Global Peace Day, we are trying to introducing that how we can create awareness for peaceful relationship. So, Madam Durga Das, can you share your views on peaceful worlds and how do you want to share your views about Malaysia and other things? Yeah.
Well, well, peace is a very, very hot topic at this point. All over the world, there's just so much going on, and I think in Middle East, especially, this it's a hotbed of you know ego and confusion, and it's definitely peace is not something that they're discussing. I think they're discussing how to fight more than talking about peace. Unfortunately, um, and in several countries, elections are around the corner, and I think that is also a very important part of the whole process of peace, because the people in charge, the people who win the elections, people who become the heads of states, heads of countries, are the ones who are going to direct this path to peace around the world. So it's a very, very important time, and the pandemic hasn't helped. It has also caused a lot of disruption, even in with peace, because when people are hungry, people are angry. When people don't have money to pay their hospital bills, they get angry. And when anger happens, then there is definitely no room for peace, and there are a lot of things that break down. So it's a very, very difficult time for everyone around the world, and it's a important time to, wake everyone up and tell them that sometimes we are tested by God, tested to see how we can withstand pressure, to how we can withstand challenge. And this is a way for us to surpass these challenging times and go into better times, right? So it's important for people to not let go of their composure, to not get disturbed, to not, be insecure, and once, if they can get past all of that, automatically they will look for more positive solutions. They will look for friendships, and things will fall into place eventually. um, I think in terms of just coming as close and personal as where India is concerned or Malaysia is concerned, we've always maintained a very healthy relationship between the two countries. We've almost literally been family, I think, for all these years. We share very similar cultures. We have similar. We have more or less similar religions. Where we have Hindus in Malaysia as well in India. We have Muslims. We have
Mhm.
Christians. So I think we share similar religion. We share the same democratic feelings. We have a voice. People have a voice to speak. We have a democratic process in our elections. So I think, Malaysia and India are, for the longest time ever, very, very healthy relation, very peaceful relationship. And I think it's nice if people can learn to build relationships like this around the world. I think if the Middle East can look at the Far East and how we have built our relationships and maintained it for so many years, I think there's a lot they can learn from us. They are a far older civilization, and yet to see them at loggerheads with each other is a very painful process. And it affects so many people's livelihoods and lives, not just there where they are, but also in other parts of the world where their families are, So, yeah, I think it's an important time to talk about peace, and but not just talk, actually implement it, live it, breathe it, share it, encourage it, and embrace it.
Mhm. Thank you. I want to go to Professor Haneke. There are actually more audience questions. I will ask everyone question from audience. Mohammad Shohlana, he asked you question, dear sir, I have another common question. Why cannot all countries live in peace and condemn dictatorships and corruption?
Mm. Okay, it's just like my wish question. Why can't we just ban tobacco all over the world? And then we have a world without tobacco. Well, because we know that Allah created humans, and we are of different. Uh, we have similarities, but we also have our differences, and of course, we are tested with many ways, in many ways, spiritually, physically, and then wealth is definitely one of the ways that we are tested, other than health and so on. So we know that wealth, for some, is a huge test where it brings them not closer to the creator, but it actually drives them further away in pursuit of the worldly wealth. Sorry. So this is where the guidance from the religion is crucial. So some of these leaders would only see the importance of worldly wealth for them and their citizen, and they can go about at any measures. For example, even oppressing others, ethnic cleansing, religious cleansing, and start wars because of their beliefs that they are superior
Mm.
and they have the rights over another, which is definitely not the way that, at least in the way that Islam preaches and teaches us. So it's maybe they believe in certain religion, all these leaders, and but they are um, being tested. So life, as we know it, is full of trials and tribulations. So if we emerge victorious, then the rewards would be forever reaped afterwards. So some of the rewards are seen by these leaders as only for now, and then for worldly use, and they don't go beyond that. They say, okay, because we have so many historical occurrences that tell us of leaders who proclaim in such ways that the gathering of wealth is all that matters. If you have wealth, you have the good economy, then you're going to be happy, you're going to be prosperous. This is where the imbalance lies. We know that human beings are not just materials and also about wealth uh, and health and so on and so forth, but we are also spiritual beings. So if there's any imbalance in any ways, then that would result in, for example, conflicts, wars, and other things that were considered unpeaceful. So I believe that these are all tests for them and also for us, because we are responsible for the leaders who lead us. We if we are we pick the wrong leaders and they turn out to be corrupt leaders, we have to do the right thing by getting them back to the right path. If it may be in legal terms, punishments, and so on and so forth for their corruption. We are seeing that now in Malaysia. I'm sure it experienced in other countries as well. So it's not something that we must take lightly. We know that power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. So what I'm trying to say is that with proper guidance and uh, with the help of the global citizen, we can work together so that corruption is reduced. I can't say that corruption does not exist in Malaysia. It will be a total lie. You know, that's why we have so much issue with illicit tobacco products, illicit cigarettes, because of corruption, for example. And it is the same. It's the same thing in many conflicts or wars. There are people corrupting others and in supplying arms, ammunition, missiles, and whatnot, because they want to make profit. So because they see it as the avenue to make money for now, okay, which going to ensure them happiness. But we know for a fact that's not true. Yeah, it's not just that, and the balanced life is what we seek for. And then when we get closer to our creator, that would be the true happiness. That's my humble opinion.
Yes, thank you, Professor Haneke. I want to go to Prof. Ainul. Uh, More response from audience. Humaira Tanzila, she said, "Hello everyone. It's a very nice discussion. Thanks to all." Shahinul Islam, he has a question. Nice discussion, sir. Would you tell us what is the relationship between education, employment, and peace, Professor Ainul?
Oh, that's very interesting relation. Yeah? Education, not in, I mean, education can to a certain extent guarantee employment, isn't it? But in some countries, we can see that education does not guarantee employment, because there is a group of people, especially the political leaders, who control the employment sector, and also it goes to the benefit of their own, people. And I was actually, it's really shocking, I mean, comparing to Malaysia, we are paid to work, but in some parts of the world, um, I see them paying money. Hello, Dr.
Hello,
Churchill.
Sharif.
Hi.
Hello,
Yes,
you
yes.
guys.
Sorry,
Good
Professor
morning
Ainul.
for me.
Yes. I just want to introduce Dr. Churchill. He is from USA. He has a interesting relationship with Winston Churchill. He is actually grandson of Winston Churchill. He lives in UK, USA right now. And he's doing some sort of interesting political activities as well. And he's a very nice person, Dr. Churchill. So, Professor Ainul, sorry, I'm interrupting you as new
No,
guest
no.
coming. So, Dr. Churchill, can you please introduce yourself and then I will go to
Hi, good
Professor Ainul.
morning. It is 6 a.m. here in Seattle, Washington, where I'm located. And I'm the American Churchill. So any resemblance with old Winston, my grandfather, completely accidental. Ha ha ha. But I appreciate the invitation from Sharif to join you. And like I said, I would have been with you, except that it is 6 a.m. in the west coast of the United States. I know we are a global community. We are all from all over the world. I'm very pleased to be amongst you this morning because it's an important subject that we are faced with.
Dr. Churchill, can you just unmute yourself? Can you please unmute yourself?
Is there any chat box you can chat? Put it.
Yes.
There you are. Hi.
Yes. Yes.
Now we are together again. So here we are. I think I can hear you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself now, please? I'm sorry for coming late. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Professor Ainul, you are sorry. You are middle of something about education, employment, and peace.
Okay, Dr. Churchill, just to a little bit of introduction of myself. I'm a law professor with the International Islamic University Malaysia. Okay, just now we are talking about, I was asked to share my opinion or my view on the link between education and employment and peace. Yes, when people don't have access to education or access to employment opportunities, then definitely there'll be conflict, isn't it? There's unhappiness. There's lots and lots of what do I say? We cannot radar here because we need food. Food for surviving. The employment is very important. Not everyone is born in a rich family. Yeah. I don't know whether Dr. Churchill has a lot of inheritance from his
And
grandfather.
which country are you from, madam?
Malaysia.
Malaysia, very good. Okay. So
Malaysia.
we are on the same time frame
Yes.
with Sharif.
Yes.
Excellent. And Miss Durga,
Sharif is in Malaysia.
yes, I do know.
Yeah.
And Miss Durga, which country you representing?
I am from India.
Excellent. So similar time zone as well. And
Professor Haniki, I think he is also from Malaysia, International Islamic University. Yes. Prof. Ainul, please.
So education is a very it's not only for employment, but education makes a person as well. You need to have. I remember when my grandmother was growing up, she was educated more in the Quran, not the other level, but Quran. But she also, being a farmer, she learned the farming skills by observing. Yeah, but it's knowledge as well, which she knows how to observe the workers in the farm, how they do work. So it's knowledge. Sometimes you learn by observing. There's many way of gaining knowledge. Before we had the universities and schools, people learned to do this way, and now we have a more structured system where we have to go to school and learn from schools and the designed curriculum. So to me, education and employment is very, very important. I mean, it is a modern world. I think the country must make sure, like in Malaysia, we have very good education policy. The highest budget is allocated for education, nearly 500 million. That means like 500 million Malaysian or maybe 100 million USD is allocated per year for education. So education is the biggest budget in this country. Next, only healthcare. So we after the independence in 1957, the young Malaysian government adopted the strategy of ensuring that access to education. So until from the age of 6 until they are 17, O levels, it is free education for all in a public school. But if you want to go to a private school, of course, you can choose to go to a private school. But we have education providing the science, all syllabus, including Islamic education. And for the non-Muslims, they are given some other. Previously, they were given their mother tongue. They learn their mother tongue. And also, we have other informal education sector providing for the other religion. I mean, it's free. Although it's
I
Islam,
understand. May I ask you a question, Professor?
yeah.
What percentage of the GDP is the education budget for Malaysia? Not in
Yes,
actual numbers, as a percentage of the
yes.
gross domestic product.
Mm.
That is the question. Because that's how we can evaluate in relative terms. United States has an economy which is almost 17 trillion. So obviously we can only look as a percentage of that. So do you happen to know what percentage of the gross national product represents the budget of education?
I don't know offhand, but I can try to get it later.
It's
But we were yeah,
4.5348%, Prof.
Mhm.
4 point. Doc,
5348%.
Mhm. Mhm.
Excellent.
Very
Thank you
interesting.
very much, Professor Haniki. That is
No, my
very
pleasure.
informative. So this is a very good percentage considering of what we do in other countries. So you are approaching education from perspective of a very well-developed country.
Mhm.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Prof. So,
Thank you.
education is supposed to help alleviate uh, the uh, the poverty rate and as well as create a knowledge society, knowledgeable society. So, to us, I believe that education has created opportunity for better employment. Yeah, and also, I mean, at the moment we have 1 million unemployment rate.
Mhm.
Yes.
1 million, yeah, we have 32 million population, and
Yes.
Mhm.
we have, because of the COVID-19, we have some businesses suffering, yeah, and we could look at more figures coming. This includes graduates and young graduates as well.
Mhm.
So we can see, and some of our our Malaysians who have gone overseas, especially to the Middle East, also some European countries are coming back because I think also they have lost their jobs there. Everyone is suffering due to COVID. So now they're coming back, and some do get better employment, or some still waiting to get. So we will see more challenging times, as I said earlier, in 2021. Now it's just the COVID movement going on. That is the onset will only coming, later. So to me, I believe education is very, very important
Mhm.
in creating employment as well as peace.
Yes.
Yes. Madam Durga, can I ask you questions?
Yes, sure.
Yeah. Like example, for your educations, Indian educations, I know that you are also long time. You explain your time in Silicon Valleys and doing very interesting projects. How do you want to think about education skills and the global peace? Is there any relationship in terms of Indian point of views or how it works in India?
You know, education is an integral part of India. As some of you may be aware, the Indus Valley civilization is probably the only remaining early civilization that still exists. We have an unbroken chain here in India. It's now 7,000 odd years old. And from time immemorial, the time that you can think back, as far as you can think back, education has been a very critical part of the Indian system, right? The
Mhm.
Indus Valley system, not just the Indian system, but the Indus Valley system. Um, there's some kind of what can I say, Arya Bhatta, the number theory, uh, Pythagoras theorem came from India. The number zero was defined and devised in India. So a number of things came from the Indian education system that are used and applied in the world. In terms of language itself, some of the oldest languages in the world come from India. So education is very important. My personal feeling on education is, and I always say this, experience, knowledge is not experience, right? But experience is knowledge. right? I think education, whilst very important, it is important to apply your education in experience. You will only learn through experience. Many people rely only on book knowledge. They say, I went to IIT or IIM. Some of these colleges are extremely well known around the world. And these are universities and colleges and programs in India. And they are well respected around the world. But the number of students today go into these universities and just go out there to get a degree and come out. There's not a question of applying themselves to practical living with that knowledge. It's only when you apply yourself practically will that knowledge translate into something meaningful, right? So book knowledge does not support peace, but experience, when applied with knowledge, will definitely support peace. When people only go by the book, they do not understand what it takes to embrace peace, because egos come to play a big part. But once you live and experience life, you go through challenges, you go through ups and downs, you apply your knowledge in the path of experience, then automatically your mindset changes, your thinking changes, your approach to life changes, your approach to solving problems changes, and automatically you will work towards embracing peace. So for India and education, there is not one family that doesn't support it. Every parent spends everything they earn only on education. As you know, I lived in the Valley, like you said, for about 25 years in Silicon Valley, quite close to Dr. Churchill, who lives in Seattle, I believe. I lived in the Valley, and in America, after the age of 17, kids are on their own, more or less, right? If they want to go to college or university, it's their choice. And many a time they need to cover their own education. Not every parent can afford to pay for it. But in India, as you know, parents will spend their last dime to make sure that the child goes through not just college, not just a bachelor's degree, but through a master's, right? And hopefully, and most often than not, a professional degree that gives the child the benefit of employability once they are done. And I think this is a similar tradition in far.
Yes. Madam Durga, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. The Indians spend 4.6% of their GDP on education. So it's a fairly healthy number as well.
Could you please repeat the number as a percentage for me? I didn't catch it. What is the percentage of the Indian gross national product for education?
I think Madam Durga has problem with the internet connections. Sorry, sometimes it happens because everyone is connected remotely.
It happened to me too with the microphone.
Yes.
But did anybody catch what is the educational investment of India as a percentage of the gross domestic product?
I think it's a 4.6%, Professor. I know
Okay.
that. Yes, Professor Haneke. Yes. There are more
Also
questions
very high,
from
very
audience.
high.
Yes.
Very good.
There are more questions from audience. Can I take audience question?
Please,
Yes.
of course.
I have two questions. One for Dr. Churchill and another from Professor Haneke. So first, I want to ask questions for Dr. Churchill's, and the question is from Abiaz Mustain, and his question is that nice discussion. Will advancement in the academia, science, engineering, arts, politics, economics, human plus be enough to safeguard peace and to prevent any future wars? Dr. Churchill, can you hear me?
I guess I can hear you. My
Yes,
answer is simply not enough. Not enough. We have to do much more than this. Not enough. Education is not enough, like Professor Druga said. We much more need to do other issues within society to resolve that famously
what your
difficult
views?
subject.
How do you want to share?
Well, I would start simply by utilizing the ancient expression amongst nations, very much like amongst peoples. We must
Can I ask
show,
you just one question?
yes,
Okay,
we
sorry.
must show
Yes,
respect in order to maintain the peace. That's all.
yes,
And
yes.
sometimes it doesn't take too much education to understand that, but it does take good parenting. It does take good national ideals. It does take good family principles. It does take good religious principle, respect amongst people, as is respect amongst nations, is the root cause of peace. And to make peace, it takes a lot of work. It's much easier to go to war than just try to meditate upon peace and to work hard to maintain this civility, to resolve problems through the power of talking, discussing, parliamentary procedure, what we call parley. To Jojo is better than war. And that's why I say respect among nations as it is amongst people is the only way that we can maintain the peace. And what we are lacking today is exactly that. We are lacking respect towards each other. We are lacking respect towards the beliefs of each other. We are lacking respect towards the ideals of each other. But most importantly, we are lacking respect towards the God that we all carry within. And although we call it by a different name, as I understand, it's the same divine force that occupies our universe and our souls. So as long as we start respecting the divine within each one of us, then we will be at peace. And that doesn't take much education. It takes all the other good stuff that I mentioned earlier. Most important, good parenting. That is my
Mhm,
opinion.
mhm. Thank you, thank you. Professor Haniki, I have a question from Royal Ginger. His question is that, in the view of our expert tonight, may I know if COVID-19 pandemic can bring a stop to a conflict by persuading conflict parties to the cooperation? Professor Haniki, yes, yeah.
Yes, thank you for the question. It's an interesting question in the fact that it has actually broken down silos. Many parts, people from different parts of the world are now cooperating in many ways, not just in addressing COVID-19, because as we know, this is the form that the disease spreads and the boundaries that it crosses is of epic proportion to my knowledge. And then countries are now working hard to contain the disease, preventing it, and then also addressing it in terms of now the production of vaccine. So the first country or the first place that can produce the vaccine, and we're going to see how this is going to impact on the other nations. For example, will there be equality in health, for example, in access to treatment, or is it going to create another level of health disparity and also limited access to treatment, whereas high-income country would be able to access vaccines and treatment, whereas lower-income country will be struggling to get it at affordable price. So that's just one aspect that may happen in the future. But I do see the benefit or the positive sides of COVID-19, that is now broken down so many silos, so many barriers in addressing this pandemic, and knowing the fact that we're also learning. We're learning the experience of one country versus another. What works in certain countries may not work in another. And we know that the inherent culture of certain populations, that we can see the difference. We didn't see any rioting or people demonstrating in Malaysia, going to the streets, saying that it's our rights to, to be free, freedom to express ourselves without masks and going to places without having any social distancing. We don't see that in Malaysia. It's not our culture. For that, we follow, we abide. We know that our government is trying to do the best in protecting her citizen, and I'm sure other countries are doing the same. And because of that, you see riots, even to the point of uh, I don't know, people are hurt because of this protest. Seeking freedom, for I don't know, for the sake of freedom, against COVID. And then whereas in other countries, people are coming together, helping one another. They know that there are people in more need, or for example, in less desirable financial situations, as Prof. Aino alluded earlier, that we now looking at around a 360 who among us are in need of help due to COVID-19. So I think that builds cooperation, that actually gives opportunity to know more about one another, and more importantly help one another. So that's from the scale of the community, and now it goes through the to the border of the countries, because each country leaders are now learning from one another what works in their country, and then trying to implement it. At the same time, the academics are trying to generate evidence-based practice, and now going to evidence-based treatment, and hopefully with the introduction of vaccines, we can have evidence or data that they actually work, and then we're going to merge, hopefully victorious, yeah, but still living with the virus in the new norm is, we cannot escape that. But the lessons that we are seeing in providing this kind of cooperation is huge, because for example, I would not have been involved in such a platform or a forum if not because of COVID-19. And Prof. Aino suggested to Brother Sharif that, okay, this is a guy who's very limited knowledge on tobacco control and tobacco and COVID, and now coming to talk on, economic forum and accessibility, and so on and so forth. But what I've seen and experienced personally, because I'm involved in this project called the Jamal Berzinji's project with counterparts in the US, we were actually having platform on civil discourse. So we were going through the learnings and the experience of resolving conflict and using techniques such as reflective structured dialogues, and so on and so forth. So trying to um, have a discussion, not a debate, having a discussion where we try to understand one another and towards building a common trust and relationship. So it, that relationship, due to COVID, is now continued more vigorously online. We have forums now. Even our rector is involved in giving speeches, and uh, we are going to have the first international virtual conference on equality, religious
Mm,
harmony, and peace 2020, this 18 and 19 November.
mm,
So these barriers that we sorry initially thought would not be able to be overcome has actually crashed down, tumbled down, and we are now working with various counterparts from our colleagues in Shenandoah University, Bridgewater College, and also from University of Sarajevo. And of course, just like Prof. Dr. Churchill mentioned, it with the sacrifice of time difference, some would have to be waking up very early, and for us, we have to stay up a bit late in order to make things work. But
mhm,
I think this actually is a good thing that has come out of COVID-19. For academics, we definitely now train more on the various platforms that we can use to help our students in their teaching and learning when they cannot be given face to face. But similarly, now we are getting accustomed to this kind of discussion where it involves a global citizen. And I'm sure leaders all over the world are doing the same thing,
mhm.
right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Haneke. This is actually really nice discussion, and today actually we get huge audience response, many questions from audience. Anyway, I know that your time is very valuable, but I have to continue it because of this audience questions. If you allow me.
I just want to allow me to interject one moment. Professor Haneke, I appreciate your comment more than what you know. Quite right. And again, like I said, I'm an early riser, but still I have things to do early in the morning. Then to join you is a pleasure. And I appreciate that it's late there and it's early here.
Mm.
But we are
Mm.
all together. And these difficulties, if anything, have made us more understanding of this thing I was talking earlier, respect for our differences. I respect the fact that you are up late, and I
Of
hope you
course.
respect the
Yeah.
fact that I have to get up very early in the morning. And that brings us together because never in the history of man have so many people come together from their own homes, from their own offices, from their own different geographic locations and different time zones to discuss issues of importance without having to get inside the jet
Mm.
airplanes and cross
Mm.
borders and travel through the atmosphere, further polluting and further causing the greenhouse effect. So there are some positive things that come out of this. And the one thing that I wanted to say that you are blessed by bringing together this new conference, I would like to apply myself. I would like to join you. And please extend an invitation to
Yeah,
me
yeah.
because I can
I
participate
will, Prof.
and be part of
Yes,
this without having to
yes,
travel. I used to
yes.
have more than 250,000 miles every year, 1,000 miles. And it was like going to the moon and coming back a little bit, but not quite getting back to the earth.
Yeah.
And now I don't have to do that. And my
Yes,
head was going crazy with the jet lag. And now we don't have to do that. So
yes,
I'm quite happy to be up very early in the morning since I don't have to go to the airport to board
yes,
an aeroplane. So God bless you. You are making it possible for me. And thanks to Sharif,
yes,
of course, and to all of
yes.
you. So I just wanted to say, invite me since I don't have to
Yeah,
travel.
yeah.
I will be a valuable addition. Thank
Yeah.
I
you
will,
very
Prof.
much.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Thank
Prof.
you.
sure.
I will
Thank you.
invite.
Thank you,
Thank you.
thank you, professors. There are actually there is a questions I have to ask Dr. Churchill from Azizur Rahman. He said it's a great discussion. So I think the audience really enjoyed today's discussion. How actually Professor Ainul, Professor Haneke, Madam Durgadas, Dr. Churchill actually contributing. So his question is that from Azizur Rahman, Dr. Churchill, why is peaceful coexistence is a basic necessity for regional and global harmony? Yes, can you unmute yourself, Dr. Churchill? Madam Ainul,
I
do you want?
think I think the most important issue that we are facing as a community in terms of peaceful coexistence, it is simply to understand that out of war, ultimately, no one wins. So if we understand that the benefits of war are diminished returns in the long term, instead of in the old world, you used to expect that, we can win the war and therefore we will exploit the resources of the other community, or we can win the war and therefore we will actually take the land of the other community, or all these other things that we know in the past, famously, described in the Viking motto, conquer, rape, and pillage. This thing has come to be known today as not unacceptable, but rather unprofitable. So once we understand that the war produces diminishing returns for the aggressor, then the aggrieved party can actually present a very good case to the others that aggressive, violent, warlike behavior will not be profitable. And I say that because in the age of conquest that we have hopefully placed behind us, the major wars that created the major empires, it became evident that they all within a short period of time, would go bankrupt. And I truly mean that in the basic sense that the treasury would be empty and they would not be able to take care of their people. And that caused us to come to a new understanding that in the future, we will not have the empires of the past that control territories under one command. What we will have instead is the empires of the mind, the empires of the strength of intelligence, the intellectual empires, the empires of the Homo sapiens, the sapient empires, empires into which knowledge would be the major trading currency. And we see that evolving as a global scale, not in any locality. Because, like we said earlier, Silicon Valley produces a lot of innovation, but so does India, so does Malaysia, so does China, so does England, so do many other countries across the world. And there is not one place in the geography that we say, if we conquer that place, then we have global innovation. Not. What we are doing today is global intelligence and global innovation. All of us together, we are putting our news, our brains, our thoughts together, and we come with something new that has never existed before. This is what I happen to like a lot because of this situation, that we can converse in peace and understand that none of us will impose our will upon the others, but together, like you said, in a peaceful, harmonious, coexistent fashion, we can elevate all of the human race by accepting the basic principle that together we are incredibly powerful and we also do the right thing because we do not need to engage in any kind of warlike behavior that will cause harm to any one of us. So, my position again is that if we look at the benefits of peace, then we will all understand to something that I've said for the last 30 years, that the highest public good that any government, any people can obtain is peace. There has been a lot of academic knowledge that goes against this basic idea. As you know, in the academic great universities, Harvard, MIT, Stanford and Yale and all these, they truly believe that power is the highest public good for a country. And they promote that idea in the people that they teach to go to government. And so the military colleges as well, West Point or American University, etc. But I differ and I disagree. And I say that the highest public good that has ever existed is peace. And I trace that back to what we call in India ahimsa. As you know, ahimsa
Ahimsa.
is the highest public good. And it came way back from the age of Ashoka, who was a well-known king, a warlike emperor who conquered territories, but at some point, King Ashoka understood that peace is the highest public good. And he even dictated that his reign was relevant to that. The Gandhian idea that we have from Mohandas Gandhi is also very prevalent here. Peace is the highest good. So I stand by that 100%. Peace is the highest public good. Therefore, peaceful coexistence is what we need to strive for instead of anything else. And hopefully, the future will bear out the truth of this statement. The highest public good that we can strive for as people, as communities, as governments, as nations, and also in this global landscape when we face external threats such as viruses or who knows what else is coming. We must maintain the idea that a state of peaceful coexistence is the highest good that we can strive for. And if we align our education of the next leaders, our education of the military leaders, our education of our officers, police officers, military officers, civilian officers, what you have. If we align that, their education strives to understand that the highest public good is peace, then I think we are going to do well for the future. But if we forget that lesson, we are going to feel what we feel today in America. And we have a lot of sadness in the United States today. We are in a state of civil war, unfortunately, within my country. And I'm very sad to say that people have forgotten that peace is the highest public good in our very own country. But I know that your country is a lot more peaceful, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Ainul, I know that you are also doing research and involved with policy making and other things. How actually good policy help in present situation, especially in COVID-19 situation, how it works? Even we know that Malaysia actually doing well in COVID period. So can you like share some of your experience?
First, I would like to thank Dr. Churchill for sharing a very interesting insight into peace as the topmost public good. I'm very, very, I mean, this is a very important knowledge I learned. Yeah. Yes, we know peace and harmony is very important for economic development and well-being of the people. But peace itself is the highest public good. And of course, tracing back to Gandhi and Ashoka, people sacrifice their own pleasure and needs, yeah, to for creating peace and harmony and peaceful coexistence. Sharif, I forgot your question. What
Yes,
were
no,
you saying?
my question is that how a good policy
Mm-hmm.
play roles to maintain a peaceful situation in COVID-19 period, and especially how actually good policy work right now.
Actually, policies can be made in volumes. What is important is that it is implemented. And I'm also, as we said earlier before Dr. Churchill came in, family, parenting is all very important. Yeah? So Dr. Churchill,
Mhm.
I mean, a senior person said parenting, yeah, family, we talk about cultural values. All these are part and parcel of implementing the law and policy. Policies can be made. Every politician who comes, they'll make policy, popular policy, policy to benefit them, policy to put them in power. All sort of policy and law can be made. But what is important is implementing and enforcing this policy and law. Without enforcement, it's nothing. It has to be implemented. So if you have people who don't appreciate the life of other person, like we all agree, I think in this forum all of us, except we have a new guest now,
Yes, Professor
yeah,
San.
Professor
Yes,
Sanya.
Yeah,
yes, Professor. Can you hear me? Can you please introduce yourself because
yeah, I
we
can
have
hear you. I'm
Professor
sorry I messed
Ainul.
up the time because
Oh,
just too
I
many jumping
understand. I
around
understand.
on too many things because
Understand.
your
No problem.
invitation, because I'm not all the Facebook all the time, so I thought it was tomorrow, so I thought yeah
Okay, okay.
tomorrow I'll
I
be
send
late,
you
but
email anyway.
it just
Yeah.
jumping. Sorry, you're already like 1.5 hour over,
Yes,
so
we have Professor Ainul and Professor Haniki from International Islamic University, as well as we have
nice
Dr.
to meet you.
Churchill from USA, and we have Professor San. Can you please introduce yourself? Yeah.
Sure. I'm sorry. First, apologize for being late because I'm not on Facebook all the time. Only like once a day. So I just checked the email, saw the yar simi yar, but I thought it was for yes tomorrow. So sorry about that.
No
Anyway,
problem.
officially I am a faculty member at the Department of Geography and Environmental Studies, and at the California State University in Northridge, which is a part of Los Angeles. It's a great Los Angeles metropolitan area. And my field is in geography, and particularly in economic geography, with a focus on geography of innovation, high tech, industry, those kind of stuff. And last year also I founded a new organization. It's called International Institute for Innovation and Development, and try to organize some major events for Los Angeles, which is called the Invasion in Los Angeles 2050 Plus, and the leadership and how to make Los Angeles a global innovation center. And we try to use this platform to create a global innovation, a global network of innovation cities. So with cities in China like Shenzhen getting involved, so we are all trying to also organize a similar event for Shenzhen. Originally, everything was planned and well, move ahead. However, due to COVID-19 pandemic, now everything has been messed up, so we have to postpone the whole thing 1 year later. So we're going to officially have the event for Los Angeles scheduled for September 30th and 2021. And meanwhile, we're trying to, because of the uncertainty associated with the American pandemic situation, which is pretty messy, and we don't know what's going to happen next year. So, but for China, which is for certain. So we're in discussion with the Shenzhen municipal government to organize the event after China's the Chinese Spring Festival, and probably in March or April, and likely I will travel to China in late October or early November. So I will try to get a visa. Now in the process of doing that, and hopefully it will be not a big hurdle for my whatever we're trying to do. Anyway, that's all about me. I guess that's enough.
Yes, yes, thank you, thank you. Beside that, I have a question actually, because we have representations from USA, even
Uh-huh.
even you, I think Professor San also from USA, but
Yeah.
we want to know in COVID period that we see some sort of tension in between USA and China. What will be future?
Uh-huh.
Dr. Churchill's, Professor Haneke,
The
and
future,
Professor. Yes.
everybody is talking about the decoupling, deglobalization, and the cutting the connections between China and the United States. I think is unrealistic. It's a mission impossible. So we're going to see restructured globalization, the relationship between China and U.S., which has been relatively friendly, relatively, I say, since before Obama came in office, and during Bush's, and even during Clinton, during the 90s, and so also has been relatively peaceful during the first, I think, 40 after China's opening program since the late 70s, or even through the early 72 since Nixon came to China. So those 40 years has been pretty good. Unfortunately, and the relationship has been rocky since Obama came into office. I'm sorry, President Obama. I like you, but I don't like your policy towards China. And the whole idea is because of the ideological, the Cold War issue, which is basically the current superpower cannot tolerate a rising second potential alternative, which leads to the competition or even wars, fights between those two major powers, which has been moving towards the wrong direction for more than 10 years. Now it's a time to recalibrate the relationship. But given the talk in the news media, in all kinds of talk shows, the New York Times, Washington Post, whatsoever, Fox News, everybody talking about the decoupling, deconnection, deglobalizing. I say this is nonsense. Okay, so U.S. and China, those two countries, major powers, in terms of interconnection among people, among business, among trade, among information, among infrastructure. There is no way for those countries to get separate from each other. So all those talks are just for political gain. This is the election year. This is the election year. Everybody try to get some votes out of the China issue. Both Democrats and the Republicans, they're nonsense. Okay, so I don't believe those empty talks. I only want to see actions. Given that what Trump has, pleased the decoupling and get rid of TikTok, get rid of WeChat, get rid of Dajian, get rid of Huawei. I think ultimately there is no way for America to get kill those companies or force those companies to kick them out. No way, because those companies do have leverages in global market in competition against America. Okay, if America, I say Trump, if you are the real one, have the guts to kick those companies out, America will be in huge trouble. This morning, I read just the news from newspaper and talking about the German company, major Infineon, and also talking about the France, the chip company. They say we're not going to use any American technology, just in case you say you forbid me to have any business with China, because China is the future, is going to stupid enough say I'm not going to do business with China. That's only the stupid people would do this kind of stupid decision, period. So ultimate decision, US and China, they have structural power because it's about the rising power and the current power. There's no way to avoid that. We only hope those two countries can sit down and talk peacefully, figure out a solution, not just for themselves, but it's also for the benefit of the world. If those two countries are in trouble, economically, militarily, or whatsoever, and the whole world will be messed up. Everybody will suffer, including Americans. If you're willing to sacrifice, I congratulate you. There you go ahead, move or do it. If you don't do it, you don't have the guts. You're not a man. That's my words. If you're really real human being, don't do those stupid things, which is no.
Yes.
Yeah,
Dr. Churchill,
that's
can I
my
ask you a question?
assessment. And the US and China will continue the relationship at the restructured not in the current, not in the past, not in the old globalized friendly way, not in the current deglobalization, the war type of relationship. It will be something between those two. I say US will probably restructure the supply chain, innovation chain, South America, Mexico, or even Canada. But there is a way to move into.
Yes. Professor Sun,
I don't care what you're talking about.
Yes.
There is no country on this world which can cut the connections either with the United States or with China, because we are so now. It's a global village. Village now. It's not the earth. It's not the globe. It's a similar village. The world is flat. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Sun. I want to ask question to Dr. Churchill.
I'm done.
Because yes, Dr. Churchill. So you have a strong political background. So how do you want to handle these present situations? What's your opinions of US and China relationship? Even let's say you win US elections.
Voice not clear.
Yes. I must say we have important issues. I hear the feeling, the emotions within Professor Sun's voice about what can or cannot happen. Characterization of leaders as not intelligent. These are fighting words, my friend. We should not use them, in good, polite company. We cannot characterize our leaders as stupid, lest we face, difficulties. So I would take the opposite view, and with full respect for the emotions and the feelings of the professor for the current state of discord between the United States and China. There is trade. There are very good trading partners, both the US and China, with the rest of the world, but especially with themselves. And let's not forget that what I said earlier, bringing global peace, it requires respect. The moment we demonize somebody by calling them stupid, well, there is no respect there. And we are losing the game of conversation. How can you talk with somebody when you call him that awful name? You cannot. So let's be respectful, and let's understand that through the dialogue, we can get some benefit. But if we feel that we cannot maintain a state of understanding towards each other via the civil discourse, then we will fail. We will fail together. Just to give you an example, trade between ascending powers has never been a guarantor of peace. As a matter of fact, both in the cases of the First World War and the Second World War, Germany and France, they had the highest trade between them. They were the best trading partners within the European community, if you will, at the time. That did not stop them from going to war and destroying each other massively. Not the First War, not the Second War. So if there is any illusion in the head of anyone that because United States and China are trading partners, they can stop going to war and annihilating each other, let me disabuse you of that. It has happened many times before, and it's even an added bonus if it happens again. So that's why I'm working for peace, because I know how easy it is to go to war. So it is not trade that's going to stop us from going to war. It is not supremacy or the necessity to be with each other. That is nonsense. If we want to go to war, we will go to war specifically because of all that trade we have. And if we want to go to peace, we just have to temper our voices and understand that together we can do far better because of the diminishing economic returns of war, as I mentioned earlier. So these are my two bits. I hope it answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Churchill. Professor Einolz and Professor Haneke, I get another question for the audience. Hosne Arafet, she asked questions that what is more important for a regular academic life, PhD degree or peaceful mind? Professor Haneke and I think Professor Einol, you can give this answer.
Well, without PhD, there's no peaceful mind because, I mean, what do I say? Okay, in our country, academics, especially in institutions of higher learning, we are required to do a PhD. So without PhD, you're not confirmed. So of course, if you're not confirmed, no peace of mind, lah. Isn't it? But
Yes.
of course, doing PhD is not an easy process. It is a journey to reach a destination, but we have not reached our destination. We're still striving and striving and striving. I let Prof. Haneke answer.
Yes, Professor Haneke, yes. Can you share that, what's your view on this question? Professor Haneke, can you unmute yourself, please? Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for the question. As we know,
Professor Haneke, can you unmute yourself?
It's mute.
okay,
Thank you.
it seemed to be okay.
Professor Haneke, can you? Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the question. Yes. Learning is from the womb to the tomb, as they.
I think they have a problem with internet connections. Actually, I want to ask another question, but this question for Professor Sun, I think he is trying to join, but this question is okay. Professor Sun, can you hear me?
Yes, the
Yes,
American
yes. There is a
infrastructure
specific.
is trouble.
Yes, there is a
Go
specific
ahead.
question from audience. Royal Ginger.
Huh?
Anyway, he asked you a question. I agree with Professor Sun. In relationship to climate change, a global peace is also needed. In such situation, how we can maintain such peaceful coexistence?
How
There is a
can
question
we
from audience.
maintain the
Yes.
peaceful coexistence?
Yes.
I think ultimately it's about education. Everybody need to be educated or re-educated. We need to be reflexive to thinking critically whatever is going on with the current global issues in terms of trade, in terms of military issues, in terms of cultural, ideological issues. We need to reflect on them ourselves, our own culture, our own actions, our own words. On the other hand, we need to be critical towards all the other sides. Let's be critical. Second, we need to think from other side's perspective. While you're criticizing, reflective on other thing, on yourself. Also try to think from other side's perspective, not just the me, us. We need to think about other side's difficulties, challenges, histories, and the ways they're dealing with their own issue, how they're treating other people, why they're treating other people the way they are. Based on that, and ultimately, I think we need to be a human being. We cannot be a machine. We cannot be some artificial intelligence and control the devices, because we have feeling, we have love, we have emotion. Don't forget that we're just one piece of the world, just like a tiger, just like a cat, just like an eagle. We're no different from any other living things. As human beings, ultimately, we need to think, on the one hand, how to create a mutually beneficial and friendly relationship among ourselves, to create a community among the whole global citizens. On the other hand, we need to move beyond the human-centered, the whole philosophy. We are the one. We should do this. We have the will. We have the power. We have the technology. We have the institution to kill everything to make us happy. That's nonsense. Ultimately, we need to create a harmonious relationship between human beings and the Earth's mother. If we don't do anything along that line, and the human beings have no future, we are all doomed someday, sooner or later. Even we deny the global warming, the ecological issues, the pollution, the water, the food, and so on and so forth. Finally, probably when we are exploring the universe, we already see life signs in maybe some aliens, called the aliens. That's not the right term. Politically incorrect. If you're thinking from the aliens' perspective, those life, they may be smarter, they may be more intelligent than human beings. We call them on the earth. We are not necessarily the most, the intelligent living things on the earth. We're not necessarily the best one. We're not necessarily the politically always correct one. We need to think beyond the earth, beyond us, beyond the Mother Earth. We need to think beyond. And if we think that way, we can accommodate each other's value. We can think from other side's perspective. I always say the most challenging as a human being is to put your own fate into other people's shoes. Whether or not that person will accept you or not,
I think there is a internet problems. So thank you, madam. I just want a concluding remarks for today's sessions. So how you want to give the concluding remarks? It's a 2 hours of session for the global peace. I think that we discussed many things about policy, science, technology, education, employment, role of Asia and other things. So what the concluding remarks, Professor Ainul Jada, you want to give?
that's the internet issue.
Yes.
I think I agree with Dr. Churchill when he says that we have to respect, we talk about
Mhm.
respecting each other, avoid conflict, try to resolve. For me, I believe mediating and negotiating is much better than going to war, because war, there is no winner. And also, we should avoid sensitive issues, discussing issues about religion. Which religion is the best. As I say, if you profess a religion, you profess it well, and also respect the other religion. No religion teaches us to ridicule the other religion. And parenting is very important. Of course, added with school, the curriculum also must look into issues relating to peace and harmony. I think that's from me the last concluding statement. Thank you,
Yes.
Sharif.
Yes, thank you, thank you, Professor San. So, what the concluding remarks you want to give from your side? And there is another question from Noor Fazrin. She asked question. She gives salam to everyone. She asked question: what are the secret of peaceful mind? So, Professor San.
What's a secret of peaceful mind?
Yes.
Experience matters. I don't expect the young folks in the 20s or teenagers, 20s or 30s, they get a peace of mind. There's no way. because right there are just too many distractions, and you're so busy with the social media, with your life, with your kids. There is no way, because you did survive. The only way I can suggest you to get a peaceful mind now, to have a healthy status in your mind, is to come down. The deliberately sector you from the social media, let's say for one day, every other day. Don't stay on social media all the time.
I think he has an internet problem. So, Dr. Churchill, what the concluding remarks you want to give for today, and how do you want to share your experience? And I think that you get new friends from Malaysia and from other countries. So, Dr. Churchill, can you unmute yourself? And yeah.
I, I thank you very much for
American
this
5G.
opportunity to address this community, the global community, and very much indebted to you and very, very grateful that I must remember that every time we discuss peace, we have the benefit of ourselves feeling peaceful. It's somehow magical. The moment you think about peace, the moment you pray about peace, the moment you meditate upon peace, you become peaceful yourself. Imagine that. The people who talk about peace, just like we do today, we have an added benefit, and I thank you for that. And that's why I decided to join, because I get the benefit that the moment you put it out there in your mind, like a volume of peacefulness descends upon you, and you quiet down, your blood pressure reduces, you're feeling better towards others, you create a sense of love, equity, and community, and justice, because peace includes justice, and there can be no peace without justice. That's where the respect comes from. By understanding that we have to mitigate the needs of everyone around the table, that's how we get peace. And I studied and I worked a lot in conflict resolution in very difficult places. I worked in conflict resolution before we arrived at the amazing accord in North Ireland, the peace accords of Good Friday. I worked in Sarajevo towards peace during the difficult times of the siege, and I was there and I suffered greatly, a lot of loss and a lot of pain. I've been to Sudan, South Sudan, Darfur, to work for peace. I've been in many places around the world, including in South Africa, at the time of apartheid and the fall of apartheid and the liberation of the people. And I worked everywhere for peace, as I do today in the United States, my country, that is suffering greatly in the throes of a civil war. And I can tell you, simply by talking about peace, I feel peaceful myself, because the news outside is terrible. The things that we see on the television monitors is horrible, and everybody's agitating for war. So I choose to speak about peace. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to that. And I wish salam to everybody. May the peace be upon you all, and God bless you. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank
And,
you.
and all the
Prof,
best.
thank you. Thank you. Professor San, can you hear me? I think, sorry, Professor San, I think there is an internet problem and other thing, but how we get the opinion from the different perspective, even from International Islamic University, Professor Ainul Jaria and Professor Haniki, as well as we get Dr. Churchill from USA, we get Durgadash, Madam Durgadash from India, and already we also joined Professor San. Can you hear me, Professor San?
Yeah, I'm sorry. The internet in America really sucks. Doesn't work that well.
Okay.
I'm using, because
Okay.
my wife doesn't work, and I'm using the LTE. Still doesn't work on the problem. But it's okay. Go ahead. It's okay.
Yes, yes. I just want your
What?
concluding remarks.
Why?
I just want your concluding remarks. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you for organizing these events, this kind of events, day after day, night after night. It definitely help people to understand each other, to get a mutual perspective, mutual respect, and from each other. And I also personally And thank you for inviting me to get involved in this event. And this is the second time I'm on stage, even I'm half baked or a little baked today. It's cool, fully cooked. And I hope everyone in the audience will learn something and will experience something, have something new today, and then reflect on ourselves in terms of what can I do, and
Thank you.
continue finish my sentence. Ultimately, is to make peace with yourself first, and make sure you and your family are safe first, and then help others. Make sure other people you are engaged can have a happy, peaceful life and a mind. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Professor San, and those who joined today. I really want to give them special thanks and do work for making the peaceful world. And those who are asking us questions, I really, really want to give them my thanks from core of my heart. So thank you. Thank you for your time and everything. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. I'm leaving,
Thank
right?
you.
I can leave, right?